faith and mental health perspectives. I'm Bishop Guy Robinson, and it is a blessing to be here with you once more. And again, would you let someone know that it is officially time for Spirit in Mind? There's several ways you can tune in and tap into our content today. First of all, we are blessed to be coming to you live from Praise 106 Studios right here in Baltimore. And if you would like to join in on our discussion when we get into our content in just a matter of moments, you can call in live at 443-380-2803, 443-380-2803. And then there's many other ways we're streaming, and our colleague and co-host is going to go over those in just a moment, because it is time to now greet Dr. Jonathan Shepard.
Hey, hello everyone, and good afternoon, and hello, Bishop, and to all of our listeners out there. Thank you all for tuning in. It has been such a joy being a part of this program, and I'm so thankful that you all are out there listening. Please get ready as we have a spirited discussion today.
Absolutely. So we look forward to you staying connected. And again, you can let someone know we're Spirit in Mind. Our streaming site is up. So you can go to Spirit in Mind on Facebook and all the other streaming venues. And we're excited. Or you can share this and let someone know that it is time for Spirit in Mind. So I guess we can jump into some content, huh? Or,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we want to make sure that you go to our Spirit in Mind Facebook page, and so that you can subscribe and like. And as I was sharing with Bishop just before we went live on the air, thank you. We've had so many people go and to our Spirit in Mind Facebook page, I should say, and go subscribe. And so continue. Go there right now. You can hit like. If you're driving, I know you can't do that right now, but as soon as you get to your destination, stop and go to that Facebook app and look for Spirit in Mind and hit like, so we can continue the momentum. It is growing. I'm loving all the notifications I'm getting throughout the week as to the new members who have subscribed and have liked our pages. That allows for us to be able to send the content to that page directly, so that you can know when we go live, whether it be on the air or off the air. We're always sending out content. You can look up Bishop C. Guy Robinson. He is someone that you want to look up or want to know. You can find him as he is an author. He is a teacher over at Morgan State University and the illustrious Hampton University. He works at both of those universities as a professor. He also is a pastor of the Tabernacle of the Lord Church, 2100 West Baltimore Street. You can listen to the various sermons that he puts out on a weekly basis, Bible study teachings. So again, we want to make sure that you are tapping into those resources through his YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Then if you are in need of direct care services, as you listen, you realize that you need someone to talk to. You may be in need of medication management services within the states of Maryland, within the state of DC, the District of Columbia. Yes, I know it's a territory, but I consider it a state the way it's run. But if you're in need of that, please let me know, and we will gladly service you. You can hit me up on my website, drjonathanshepard.com. My admin team is there waiting to help and to assist you, drjonathanshepard.com. Or if you're in need of resources for your event that's coming up, symposium, whatever that you may have that deals with mental health. We've been really dealing a lot with Black men mental health this year. It's been amazing that both Bishop and I have been on that same track regarding announcements, and so regarding engagements, I should say. So I want to make sure that you know that you can reach out to us if you're in need of those services. Let us know, and we will do our best to fit it into our schedule if it allows, because we want to make sure our people are doing well. They're doing well physically and mentally. I'll start right there, Bishop.
this is good. We look forward to the connections and staying connected, and our content that we're going to discuss today. So please get connected, and let's keep this thing going. And thank you for every follow and for every subscription to what we're doing. I just wanted to underscore what Dr. Shepard said, because we welcome it, and we're better because of it. Your input makes a difference. So listen, we've been talking about well, we were talking about transitions, and then this came out, the Soul Care Birthright. So we have been discussing some of the content of the Soul Care Birthright. If you don't have a copy yet, you can certainly do so. You can go to Amazon. You can get the hard copy like I have here, or you can, if you prefer the digital version, you can download it. You can read with us even now as we speak. You can go to Amazon. You can get the Kindle format. You can get the Apple Books. Different ways you can get it. But whatever you do, get it so you can hopefully
Yes.
be blessed by and engage in the conversation. It's meant to be a conversation piece for those who are interested in this intersectionality or this intersection approach, integrative approach to faith and mental health or spirit and mind. And so now that has taken us into some content that we're going to get into. Yet, the last couple of weeks we were talking about the medical model
Hmm.
and trauma informed approaches to doing ministry in collaboration. Yeah, my previous book, Critical Collaboration, you know, I'm an advocate for collaborative relationships between the worlds of faith and mental health. And so now we're going to transition into some other stuff. Dr. Shepard's going to get us off the ground, and we'll go from there. Again, you can call in 443-380-2803 or join in on the chat line. Dr. Shepard.
Absolutely. And thank you, Bishop. And this has been a wonderful time to talk about the book Soul Care Birthright. And it really has flowed with our topics that we've been discussing in relation to transitions, in relation to living in a new place and how to be able to live in a new place. And the book has just been a godsend, honestly, to help us to understand what we need to do as Christians, as believers, as persons who want to do better with our mental health and knowing how to be able to live in that new place. And as I told Bishop today, wanted us to really have him expound on some more of the chapters of the book. Again, you must get the book. If you've gotten the book already, I'm going to be looking at chapter 9 and chapter 10 because chapter 9 talks about Back to the Future. Chapter 10 looks at the definition of mental health. And let me tell you, it all applies together. Just watch and see how the intersectionality of our conversation today just flows with it. I'm so excited because even as I was reading again this morning through these chapters, I was just impressed upon the ability of Bishop Robinson to bring together what has been lacking. If you look at the chapter in the book, chapter 9, talking about Back to the Future, I love the title because it really instates how we who are believers, who are within the church, we kind of got away from the importance of psychology and how the Bible deals with psychology. We have to understand that, yes, God is concerned about our soul and salvation. Absolutely. He's concerned about our physical health. Absolutely. But guess what? He is concerned about how you think and how you feel and your emotions. And again, if I was a person on a debate stage right now, I would even say that is one of the more critical pieces, more so even than physical health, because how your mind operates will dictate even your physical health. I know I'm telling the truth up in here. I really wanted to talk about that today because once you get to a place, and if you've been listening to us over the last few weeks, we've been talking about how you can be living in a new place and yet still not operate as if you're living in a new place. You can find yourself in a new territory, new boundary, new season, even new environment, and yet operate in the old, yet
Mhm.
operate out of order. Honestly, because if you find yourself in the new, there should be even a newer way of thinking. Yes, that doesn't mean that you throw out everything that you learned in the past. No, I'm not saying that. But there even is a new order of operation, if you would. When you get a new toy for the children, if you get a new device, so many of us, we love our devices, but those devices come with instructions.
Mhm.
And you may say, well, I already know how to work it. Yeah, I thank you for the device, but I got it. I got it. But then you end up missing out because there are some instructions that go along with the new advice. And so, Bishop, I'm about ready to hand it back over to you. It's so interesting that you were talking about the different factors that we find ourselves as believers as to why we don't deal with the psychology of the psychology aspects, I should say, of the Bible. It's really interesting to me the different factors that you outlined here, and I'll just go through them real quick and then hand it over to Bishop. If you get the book, you'll see three factors. He talked about the church's abandonment of its ancient tradition of biblical psychology. Then he talks about the lack of awareness concerning the ways that churches organically support and improve the mental health of its members. That's big because many people will get up and say, we're not going to do that psychology stuff. Oh my God, that's of the devil. And I've heard so many different things, not even realizing that they are organically already helping the mental health of the congregants, of the believers, of the community.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you deal with that, Bishop. And then the third is the eschatological culture of soul care that does not require its caregivers to collect data and codify best practices as required by state-sanctioned providers of mental health services. I know that was a mouthful, but basically,
we don't keep records.
That's what Bishop. That's what he's saying. So, Bishop, help us out. It's just
again, if you don't have the Soul Care Birthright, I would love to get your thoughts and feedback on it. It's available. But so I was inspired by some research that has identified mental health concerns as the new frontier of ministry.
Right.
And I certainly applaud and welcome that conclusion. And yet at the same time, I was reminded when I read that, those evidence-based research reports and things like that, peer-reviewed journals for all these scholars out there that identify mental health. I know it certainly is, the topic is trending.
Right.
If you do hashtag mental health, say like a million posts,
Right.
So I know it's trending, but if something is going to reach beyond being trendy to being truly transformational, then there has to be some study and some methodologies to it. So this whole idea of mental health being the new frontier of ministry, no shade, is welcome. And yet I was reminded of that movie. I might be dating myself as, Generation Xer, but Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox, the actor. And he went back into his past, but at the same time was affecting his future. And with that, it occurred to me, and research backs it up, and historians, that, the scriptures are filled, in a sense, we're going back to paying attention to the rich attention that the scriptures already place upon our cognitive and emotional wellness. We sing about it. The scriptures are filled with it. Let this mind be in you.
Yes.
That was also in Christ Jesus. You have the mind of Christ. Just begin to list how many scriptures and, mention mental health. And so that's the practice of what we call in the theological corridors, biblical psychology, meaning what was the understanding that the ancient inspired writers of scripture had concerning the mind, will, and emotions. And that is as old as the God who made us as beings of spirit, soul, and body.
Wow.
And so that's really the reclaiming the birthright is, if you deal with the first, I spend a lot of time in the first part, that the birthright is really the larger share of a shared inheritance. So it doesn't disinherit anybody. But it means that you have a responsibility to take care of this and manage it, even in collaboration with your siblings. And so with that in mind, I would submit that God, who created us, has always cared about our mental health. We stepped away from that for so many reasons that I discussed in the book. But our assignment to serve this present age is to get back into the theology of a God who cares about how we think, how we feel, what we're going through, which is to say our mental health. And in that context, the psychological disciplines really did not invent concern about our condition, but it added much needed evidence based practices and valuable information that can enrich our ministerial practice.
Wow. Wow. So thank you, Bishop. And I was going to continue with that where he just left off. So we're not in conflict.
Right.
That's where I want to start first of all. We're not in conflict. And I want to just point out some things that really spoke to me today, even as I reread this particular chapter and chapters that we're focusing on, and how we can, once you arrive and as you're finding yourself in a new place, and you want to make sure that you don't neglect these things that we're talking about. These are things that organically that we see ourselves doing as leaders, as congregants, as people of God. Some of the organically therapeutic practices are number one, charitable deeds. And I talk a lot about this even when I speak about how to reset yourself mentally. Charitable deeds is number one.
Yeah.
Be kind to people. You know, literally be kind to people. I know that might sound elementary or rudimentary or whatever, but honestly, we have got to get back to being kind to people, and making sure that our acts of kindness are not just something to tout and say that we did this, but just be nice to other people. I can remember, Bishop, when the pandemic was in its height, and we were going to grocery stores. And I remember having to walk down the aisle a certain way with the arrows. And I remember one time walking down the aisle and I went the wrong way, and people were about to throw me out of the grocery store. I was just,
Right.
I mean, the police and everything. I was like, my Lord, man. And there was one woman who helped me while I was there. And because I got there early in the morning, you have to get to the grocery store at 7:30 in the morning because you didn't want to be there with a lot of people. And this one woman, she was so thoughtful, and it literally dawned on me, I should be a blessing to her the next time I go there.
Mm-hmm.
And I did just that. I gave her just something that God told me to bless her with. And you know what, Bishop? She was scared. She didn't know what I was trying to do to her. She's like, are you sure? Like, you dropped this? I was like, no, this is for you. And it was interesting that day that I went back, I couldn't find her. And typically she's easy to be found. So even there's a lesson in that when it comes time to be charitable, kind, sometimes you have to be intentional, and you have to go a little bit further out of your way to make sure that you can do that. And again, these are these therapeutic practices that we do. Discipleship is another one that Bishop talks about in the book. And discipleship is not just evangelism, but it's also about developing healthy coping skills such as prayer, forgiveness, and finding hope and meaning in difficult times. That is so important because these are the healthy coping skills that will help you as you go through your daily processes of and challenges of mental health. I'm about to cross over to chapter 10, Bishop, because I love the continuum that you have when we talk about flourishing. The last one, suffering. What's the one in the middle? Lord, I don't forget. Flourishing,
functioning, basically.
Yeah,
struggling.
Struggling. There we go.
Suffering.
Sorry about that. I got so much in my head. Flourishing, struggling, and then suffering. And so this will help you in as you are going through these various things, being kind to one another, making sure that your disciple advocacy. That was huge. Our churches, our people, when you find yourself in better territories, in better lands, in better areas where you can advocate for people, you should be able to advocate for those who are not just flourishing, but advocating for those who are suffering. We must not forget those. And we have so many people who come through our churches on a day to day basis who are suffering. They may not say it, but this is how we have to advocate for them. And then being productive, making sure that what things that we have been given ownership, stewardship, making sure that we allow our stewardship to show the evidence that we are believers. We don't, as Bishop says in the book, we're not saved by works, but your work should identify there's something different about you.
Right. And these really are the based off of the World Health Organization definition of mental health,
Yes, sir.
which you have a greatly
Hmm.
created the acronyms for PCWC. But for those of you that when anything that helps to the ability to realize potential, the ability to cope with stress, the ability to work productively, and the ability to make meaningful contributions to community, if they are the characteristics, then anything the church does
Hmm.
to promote those characteristics really is an organic way. And there's some of the ways that we listed. We just aren't always conscious of them. And so we aren't always intentional in our methodologies or in our reports or even in giving ourselves constructive criticism and affirmation
Yeah.
for the work that we do, which goes to Pastor Robert Spry, my friend. Good to see you with us on how we got to the point where it seems mental health is the new pandemic. And the Dr. Shepard jump in there as he
Hmm.
sees fit. But yeah, so hopefully you got the soul care birthright. But we're talking about how the church can help contribute. And in many ways, it already does organically
Hmm.
because there's no way we can talk about the God who made us as beings of spirit, soul, being in psyche, mind, will, and emotions, and body without addressing our mental health because the God who made us is invested and concerned about our mental health. He tells us, be anxious for nothing. I'll keep you in perfect peace. Keep your mind stayed on me. All these scriptures, God already cares. We just have to begin to adopt, if you will, a psychological hermeneutic for you theologians out there to our homiletical practices. Dr. Shepard.
Yeah, and so thank you, Pastor, who asked the question as why does it seem that mental health is the new pandemic, and one of the reasons why is because people have gotten to a point now that they recognize what used to work in the past is no longer working anymore. I would submit to you, and this is what Bishop has been saying all along, is that we lost track, we lost focus on the importance of our mental health. Uh, it has always been studied, and even as I come from the different viewpoint from psychiatry, is that psychiatrists were always deemed as really your smartest doctors. They were seen as your smartest and most intellectual doctors, and there was a connection between your faith and how you thought. That has been shown for years and years and years. And again, especially in this country, we've tried to disconnect the two because of various different reasons, too many factors to mention right now, as to why we try to push aside our faith. And now we are understanding that how we think is so important. When you look at the various things of what's happening in our world, people can no longer explain why people are doing what they're doing. And so now they're almost leaning toward the mental well-being of a person to understand why a person behaves the way in which they do. Now, it can't answer the question at some points, but when you're talking about these evil acts that happen where people are doing mass murders or various other things, many times it cannot be explained by the mental health of a person. We have to recognize that there is evil in the land, and that there are evil acts, and also recognize that when a person has a mental illness, they are normally not the perpetrator, they are normally the victim. Please know that they are normally the one who is victimized. And so when you look at our churches now, uh, all you have to do is say the word mental health, and it's like ears perk up. My concern, though, is that our ears just don't perk up. We want to make sure that the persons are saying the right thing, because it is a buzzword right now. And we have to be careful that the bishop talks a lot about this, about being transformational and not just trendy. So you'll hear people talk, about mental health, and they'll throw a couple things in here and that, but that's not really what mental health is. Bishop Robinson, we talk a lot about mental health. Mental health is the state of well-being where every individual recognizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and then make a contribution to his or her community. That means you have the ability to recognize your potential, the ability to cope with the stress, the ability to work productively, and then the ability to contribute. That's what mental health is. It's not about you keeping sane or the Lord keeping you in your right mind. And He can do those things, but that's not mental health. I'm gonna stop there.
And that's where the soul care birthright really talks to being able to have a theological construct for these things, because that's our job as the church. For those of us that are ministry workers and ministry leaders, our job is to frame these evidence-based practices within the framework of a theological worldview. So for example, let's go with that definition. Then part of it is to be able to realize one's potential.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that speaks to us in the language of theology to say that we are beings of purpose and destiny, and potential has been invested in us, and that there are specific ways in which God looks for us to fulfill that purpose. And that's what we offer when the theological lens is that what is the chief end of man? The Westminster Catechism asked, what is our purpose? Why are we here? The answer of that is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever, is the answer of the Westminster Catechism. So that's what we offer on the spiritual or existential level, to work productively, to cope with the stresses of life. So how do we frame that? Well, life does have stresses. It's not a matter of whether life will stress us. The matter is, how are we coping?
Yes.
In this world, Jesus said, you not might have, but you shall have persecution. You might have trouble.
Wow.
There'll be difficult times, but be of good cheer. Here's the help and the hope. And so how do we share the gospel in a way that gives people healthy coping skills, that doesn't deny the reality of struggles, that doesn't say that life is simplistic? And so how do we offer not just the worldview of Deuteronomy 28, because that's pretty bifurcated. If you do well, you'll be blessed in the city. If you don't do right, you'll be blessed in the field. The answer counterpoint to Deuteronomy 28 is the book of Job, that you can be blameless and still find yourself facing the struggles and losses of life and the gray areas of life. And so not all things are punitive. They are just a part of life. And so that's how but how are you coping? And that's where we had to have data that shows that participation in healthy faith communities actually can increase life expectancy. Not by, if now God can do anything, but it's not all in mysterion. Sometimes it's just by, the research shows, because it gives us healthier strategies to cope with the stresses of life.
Yes, sir.
So we don't get drunk, we don't become addicts, we don't get high. We learn, at least not as you suppose, as Peter said on the day of Pentecost. And so that's how we contribute to mental health. So if we know these definitions and create a theological framework for all of them that contribute to community, because we're not all in this by ourselves. That I know that Jesus is, yes, I made a personal decision to give my life to Christ. So He's my personal savior. But He also died, the Bible says, to save the world, the cosmos in the Greek, which means that God is a systems thinker. He's interested in us being in community and making us social beings, and we have something to contribute. And so if I'm going to maximize my potential is not maximized in isolation, but it's maximized in relationship with God and others. That's how we frame all of these definitions and characteristics of mental health into a theological framework, so that our faith is not an avoidant mechanism or wishful thinking or a neurotic moment, but it is an actual constructed theology based on the scriptures that improves our mental state and contributes to our well-being.
All right. We're done, Bishop.
Yeah, we are. My Lord. Listen, as the preacher, listen, if this has blessed you, it's time to go. Join us next time right here. You said,
Spirit in mind.
Oh, wow. Oh, see Harris. It's the Ronald Green